It's your Dockmaster Michael Atilano, and you are listening to the Starboard. The guest for this episode is artist, songwriter, and musician Emm Gryner, and her songwriting partner Michael Holmes, here to talk about probably one of the most highly anticipated album releases in some time, Business and Pleasure, and her new singles Valencia and Burn the Boats. Welcome to the Starboard, Emm and Michael.
Well, we're so happy to be here.
Yeah, it's fantastic to meet you.
So first and foremost, I've been listening to your music, and I got to say that this album is more than just a renaissance of indie. It is a rebirth of a classic sound encompassing of yacht rock. What was the motivation behind going in this direction musically?
Well, it all started with Michael McDonald, as all great stories do. It really stemmed from being in the pandemic and being faced with those life or death kind of questions, like if we're not going to make it, what do we wish we would have done? What do I wish I would have done? So my dream was to sing with him. So I set out trying to find him to duet on a song that I wrote called, If I Can Find True Love, I Can Find Michael McDonald. That was the name of the song. And it was about my partnership with Michael. And then my pursuit for him led to a guy named Fred Mullen, who's an amazing producer based in Nashville, Canadian-American producer. And instead of hooking me up with Michael McDonald, he just said, why don't you, if you want to make music in this vein, why don't you write some more songs? And I had already asked Michael to collaborate with me on songs, which I'd never done in my life. And we just started writing songs, and they turned out amazing. So we just started writing songs, and then next thing you know, we've got this album that sounds, I think, a lot like the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, and Emm and I both shared a love for a lot of the same songs, a lot of the same musicians and bands. And so it was a lot of fun to say, if we were in Steely Dan, what would we want to write? If we were in Fleetwood Mac, what would we want to write? Not trying to write like them, but saying, if we were actually part of that world, what would we be doing? And we just followed our joy.
On many of the songs on this album, I can hear the distinct craft to many of those artists, yet none of them are distinct to any of those artists. One of the main things that stands out in all the songs is the horn section, and it's very reminiscent of Memphis horns, who played with the Doobie Brothers. Yet, it's not as simplistic as that. It's more Steely Dan and Chicago. With the way the album is mixed, it adds a beautiful dimension to the album's overall sound. It just sounds so beautiful hearing the horns in your songs.
Thank you. And I have to give a shout out to Bryden Baird, he's a Toronto horn player who I had played with before. He played with a lot of people, Feist and people like that. But when we were demoing these songs, Bryden really helped us shape them because he's a fan of this music as well. And I think probably he's more schooled than we are. And to be honest, he wrote a lot of the really prominent parts. And then we got Jim Hoke in Nashville, who's a legendary horn guy, to kind of, take Bryden's parts and then add maybe some of his imaginings. And then, just really love, the guys as well who we had playing. They're older, right? And I keep thinking about the fact that age was an asset, because we're always trying to we admire everyone who's in their teens and 20s and stuff, but in this case, if you're going to make a record like this, you want to work with people who have been there, who've had the bowl of cocaine in the studio. Not saying we partook in that, but just people who genuinely live through the time, and we're not making this music ironically or you could weigh in on this too.
Yeah. And I mean, I was telling the story yesterday, actually, to somebody. When we went into the studio with Fred Mullen, we were in Sound Emporium. When we first met with all the musicians, and we were talking about guys who just made music that inspires us now and inspired us for years. We're talking everybody from Pat Coyle to Shannon Forrest to Pat Buchanan, who played with Cameo, to Tom Bukovac, who's just a legendary guitar player. He gathered everybody in the room and said, I don't want you to sound like a band. I don't want you to sound like Emm's band here. I want you to be the baddest studio cats that you can possibly be. And the look on everybody's face in the room was like, oh my God, a producer in Nashville never says that to us. That's so antithetical to the way records are made today. And you could just see the joy take over them. And they went back to their instruments. They went back to their drum booth. They went back to their guitars. They went back to their bass. They went back to their keyboards and just let rip. And the reason why I told that story is because no matter how old or how young a musician might have been in this session, they just followed their joy as well. And so everything about this record, whether it was Bryden or whether it was the other people that we collaborated with to work on demos, or to one of my oldest friends, Pete Demeter, saying, you know what you really need? You need horns on this song. Everybody who participated fell in love with the idea of the songs, fell in love with the project, and added something to it. So it really was not just a record that we made or that Emm made. It was a collaboration involving everybody who played on it, right down to the guys who mixed it and engineered it. Like, everybody put something of themselves in the record.
You have a lot of different elements of smooth jazz. You have Quiet Storm. You have different elements that take place. And so those elements up into the present are just on your present recording. And it's fantastic. It's phenomenal. I love all the different layers. What was the first song that really launched this project and idea to move forward?
That's a good question. It was Burn the Boats. And I just kind of handed it over to Michael once I wrote the main chords, which, to be totally honest, I was trying to go for a Do It Again, Steely Dan vibe. And I don't really have any shame in saying, we modeled some of the songs after existing songs, because I don't think, like you said earlier, you don't necessarily pick up on it, especially with a female voice. So yeah, Burn the Boats. I really loved how drawn out Do It Again is, and the dual solos. Then Michael really took it somewhere lyrically, which he can speak to.
One of the things that was most fun about this is the way that Emm and I got to play off of one another and create in process. And so when she would come up with something like that, it just sent me to the coast of California, looking out at the Pacific Ocean. And I started thinking about lines and Do It Again, talking about Mexico. And I just recast it and thought that one of the stories that I've always been fascinated with was the birth of Latin American as a people, and how it really is a culture that was created from a native Mexican woman who was enslaved by the Spanish, who worked as Cortez's translator, who eventually really did give birth to a modern society, give birth to people by literally having the first mixed race kid. And I got into the romance of Mexican mythologies and tried to weave them all together. And then having Emm take those words and find melodies for them, and those melodies suggesting where things had to change so that the song and the story could work. I think we worked really well together.
It's the first time I've used the word Andalusian.
Yeah.
What's great though about this kind of music? It's you think about Toto and Africa, and the fact that no one else really has the license to use the words Serengeti and Kilimanjaro in in songs. But that's what I love so much about this genre. And also how some of this music has been received after we've made it. I think I'm a good lyricist, but Michael's a poet. And that's where this becomes really interesting, because you can write a song with this theme and it works, I could have never written these lyrics. So I love that. I guess there's a lot of yacht rock that just is love songs, like Ambrosia and stuff like that. That's great too. But we were really drawn to some of the intricacies of the lyrics of Steely Dan, I think mostly, right?
Yeah, and I think we're drawn to the intricacies of the musicianship, the extremes to which some of these records showcased just the skill of horn players or guitar players or drummers, or even the work of producers. That kind of complicated, but also like virtuoso performance made us feel like we had license to explore pretty much anything lyrically. And I mean, one of the great things about this in the collaboration is that some of my favorite lines on the entire record were things that Emm sang as kind of placeholder melodies at the very, very start of creating songs. So there's one song that I really love on the record that's kind of like a modern day version of Girl from Ipanema in a way, called Strangers and Saints. And she just sang kind of spontaneously this line about a Beatles song. And that song, as it exists now, wouldn't exist if it wasn't for that kind of first rush of performance where she was just coming up with this incredible music. It led me to think, I have to be that good. I have to come up with other lyrics that were as good as that one line that she was singing.
Rainbows make oceans blue, love's like me and you, strangers and saints, forever sunshine soul, we ain't getting old, strangers and saints.
It's interesting that you're mentioning Mexico, and I was reading the background story of Burn the Boats and how you talk about mestizos and or that term mestizo. You don't hear that term too much. Also, the Kilimanjaro, like you said, the only time I've heard Kilimanjaro or anything like that was in reggae.
Oh yeah.
So, but Mexico, especially with more than just yacht rock, it included soft rock as well. You can say James Taylor, Christopher Cross, Billy Dan, and more importantly, or less importantly, I guess, is Herb Alpert, who his story was he went down to TJ and used to go to these bull fighting matches as a kid, and that's where he birthed the idea for the Tijuana Brass. So Southern California and Mexico are hand in hand with where they're at, and for whatever reason, it seems like the music of that era, there was always references to traveling or en route to Mexico or, going to this place called Mexico. And so just with this one song alone already is you take it to a different notch. For me, it touches home because my family is Mexican. So
Oh wow, that's awesome.
yeah. So, and then the Spanish also, that's a whole different story because they've conquered everybody. And
Well, yeah, and there's also like almost like a little joke embedded in that song. There's a section of the song that actually is me translating back from Joe Strummer's kind of bad Spanish and Spanish bombs, translating it back into English and to kind of reclaim it for the story of this song, the story of Donna Marina, so that it fits, and just saying, okay, how do we reclaim these things in a narrative for the whole world? So it really fascinated me.
How did you and Michael find each other and then work as a collaboration? Is there any of that, of the love story, included in these songs?
Well, I kind of feel like the whole record wouldn't exist if the love story wasn't there, which is really interesting because I've been very protective of being a songwriter for 20 years, like kind of been an island. But I met Michael because I had written a book called The Healing Power of Singing. I wrote that book because I used to sing with David Bowie. Around 2018, there was a concert that came out called Glastonbury 2000, and it really woke me up to my voice and how I hadn't really paid any attention to the power of my voice, I guess. It was the one thing when I was in my bedroom, when I was a kid, singing along to American Top 40. I just always wanted to be a singer, but I knew I wasn't very good. So I just made a commitment to work on it. And that's when I started writing songs and I really wanted to sing them. So fast forward to writing a book about singing, and Michael is an editor at a publishing company in Toronto. And he was the first person I met who I felt would get the book and it would be in good hands. So he signed up the book and we went for about a year, as you do as an author and editor, just kind of keeping in touch, how's the book going? And, I'm like, oh, it's going well. Meanwhile, I scrapped it like a couple of times. And so finally, I had to reach out to him on some other business. Someone wanted me to pass on a manuscript. And that's when Michael told me that life had changed for him and he was suddenly single. I think the title actually comes from what happened, Business and Pleasure. But it was great because we carried on and I finished the book. He assigned another editor to the book. It was very professional, I felt, after a certain point. And then when we started to date, that's when I just had this feeling I should ask him if he wants to help me with my next album, because I was always very envious of couples who did creative things together. I never had that in my life. And here I was with this amazing writer, and we took a chance and we wrote Burn the Boats. And then I remember emailing him and saying, we're in like big trouble because we're actually a really good songwriting team.
Burn the boats, raise the siege, the sun and the sea. Set me free. Burn the boats, raise the siege, the sun and the sea. Make me believe. I sang for you in Spanish.
For me, it was pretty much the same story. The minute that Em and I went for our first walk, it inspired me. And so as I was falling in love and as our relationship was growing, I wanted to document it. And there was no better way to document it than when she asked, do you want to try writing together? And we started creating these really great songs. And after, a 25, 30-year career of writing fiction and nonfiction and poetry and editing literally 1,000 other people's books, I realized that after the first couple songs that we wrote, we were in big trouble, and it was good trouble because it was the best creative work I'd ever done in my life.
We also are watching a ton of documentaries in isolation, like kicked off with, that classic albums documentary of the making of Asia. And that was another thing, like, I think we both shared a natural love for the genre. Yeah, I remember when I announced to you that I loved Michael McDonald and you said that was okay. And that's when I knew everything was going to be all right.
And then I actually got her a couple Michael McDonald mugs and a Michael McDonald t-shirt as a present. So
That's funny. I've taken my wife to so many Michael McDonald concerts that I don't think she ever wants to see him perform again. So
That's so funny.
I personally saw him in all the different formats that he can be in. I saw him with Steely Dan when they reunited in 1994, and it was supposed to be a one-off concert, and the concert sold out within 15 minutes. So they did a second one, and it was initially supposed to be a celebration of their music. It turned into a full-blown tour. When I hear a lot of your music, you could have easily wrote music for Two Against Nature or even present-day Steely Dan. Michael, just hearing your story and Em knowing your backstory, at least from what I've read of it, is intriguing, to say the least. You can tell there's a lot of thought that's put behind this album. There's almost a pirate aspect as well to your music.
The next video should go over well then.
yeah, it really should. And the t-shirt should be a big hit.
Is that one influenced by Dia de los Muertos?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, there's a long-standing fascination that I've had with Day of the Dead stuff and the idea of pirates. And it's not just pirates, it's yacht rock's fascination with, and I think jazz's fascination in a lot of ways with outlaw stories. So there's a lot of that in all the songs. So even a song like The Chance that is to me like a classic kind of 80s driving song that could be used as the song for a montage in a cop film.
This is the chance. Make our escape. Waiting in longer and we know it's gonna get away. Monarch angels drive me to the mission bells of San Miguel with you.
For me, it's looking at all the tropes of the music that we love and exploring them and having fun with them. And I think one of the things that's consistent in all the songs in the record, no matter what the motivation behind writing the song was, we both love the kinds of songs that all of these songs are. There was something joyful about every single song and the diversity of all the songs. So whether it was like a car chase song or a piratey kind of song or a song focused on the ocean, and there's a number of those, it was because of things that were important to us and things that we loved.
Reminds me of almost something that you'd hear on Magnum PI. Also, it sounds similar to Ride Like the Wind, where it starts off with the kick. It reminds me also, too, of the Jacksons' Torture.
Mm.
It's so refreshing. Same with Jack. Jack goes into a whole different tempo.
All we need is a little more Jack. Our love's come back is forever enough. All we need is a little more Jack. True love's come back, and that's always enough.
It's something that I would hear on a Steely Dan album.
During this year of writing, we had all these crazy ideas like, let's find Mike Post. Like, what's Mike Post doing? And, you know, we'd kind of spend some time looking him up and like, oh, he's just golfing or retired or something. Like, it really allowed us to dream and go into our teenage selves. And Jack was no exception. That was inspired by Jack Wagner. Also, I wanted to do a song in the Rosanna type beat. It's not quite that, but it also sort of has that solo with the synths and then the follow-up guitar solo. So it was really fun, you know, and I even putting out the record and kind of seeing where it brings us, like to meet you is such a treat because we can have these kinds of conversations. I've never had this in the pop world where it's too broad when you're making like modern pop. There's nothing in common with like anyone that you talk to, but this feels like a family. Just seeing the way it hits people is sort of confirmation that, you know, we weren't wrong. Like when we were having fun making this, we dreamed that we'd maybe record it one day, and then to find the musicians enjoy it and to find other people are really digging it, that's like such a huge thing for us.
You know, another thing I think of, because we're the same age as you and I, and Michael, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 56, so I'm a little bit older.
So the reason why I'm asking is because from that same age group, it's like in 1982, when you're 7 years old, and I know you have a musical background, so you can probably picture, but if you had the 45, you never probably imagined yourself as a 7-year-old. You don't realize how good the actual music is. Then here we are now, where that music was pure gold.
Totally. And I just did an 80s Christmas show yesterday. And I was just saying that, you know, the 80s, I mean, some of it was over the top, but it's not really a joke to me. It's sort of like a way of life. It's really something I believe in because there was this sort of feeling of just kind of blissful, like, let's go for it. And, you know, this is over the top and this beat is in your face and that chorus is too big and your hair is too big, but it's all okay. Like, and I miss that. I miss the feeling behind that. I don't know. What were the 80s like for you?
For me, it even goes further. I mean, there's elements of me being able to remember Christmas mornings in the late 70s, being in California and my aunt handing me things like the new album by the Eagles, this thing called Hotel California, and nobody knowing what it was going to be like and actually having that record. And for me, the music of the 80s, it was omnipresent. It was just every part of my life. And what's amazing to me now is how much of it has just filtered in almost unconsciously, but like by osmosis, is just part of my everyday being, whether it's a turn of phrase or whether it's a riff or whether it's associating a certain keyboard sound or like the sound of a Rhodes piano will instantly send me back to certain songs. And the books that I like and the music that I like all coming together. And I realize that it's a great continuum and it holds everything together. So I can go to see Mama's Gun play a live show and I look around the audience and I see people who are 17, 18, 19 years old. And I see people who are 60 years old and they're all enjoying the same music. And it's new music, but it's music that calls back to stuff that was going on in Detroit in the 70s and stuff that was going on in California in the late 70s and early 80s and stuff that was going on in New York, dreaming of California in the 70s and 80s. And I realized that we are a product of our whole lives. And so the 70s and the 80s are a vital part of who I am now. And it's given me these conversations that I can have with Emm and all these cool musicians that I've got to meet and talk to. And I realized that there's so much that we share that we just have never really been able to have a language for. And when Emm talks about people like you and finding like-minded people that we can have these conversations with, it's just making me so happy all the time.
The best thing is that we were born into a world that had good rock music from 1975, 76, 77. And then ironically, when things got to the 80s, once MTV was introduced, everything changed from, hey, let's musically get better into let's be visually better. And then you had the element of technology coming in with synth. You had the European influence with the new wave. And really, it kind of buried the musicianship of what that era of adult contemporary was doing. A lot of those artists had to adapt. And then it's funny you mentioned Jack Wagner, because here they are once again trying to recreate another Rick Springfield with Jack Wagner, when really Jack Wagner was an artist all in himself.
Yeah, totally. It's really interesting you bring that up, because as we were working on the video for Burn the Boats, my brother, who's a director, we were just like trying to pull some references of videos from yacht rock, sort of yacht rocky type artists. And we're like, well, yeah, there weren't a whole lot. Like you'll see a live thing, but it kind of made it a challenge, because you're right. Like I think once video came in, then we're kind of thinking about other things.
MTV played the Doobie Brothers farewell concert. And as a kid, I think that came out in 82 or 83. I know in 83 for sure they were broadcasting that on MTV. And I remember we were watching that concert and we're just laughing and laughing because they were just standing there and they wouldn't move. Meaning like where you watch some of these other music videos, Michael Jackson's dancing. He has all the, the magic of the moves, or you watch the Flock of Seagulls have the hairstyle. Well, you have these guys of the Doobie Brothers just bobbing their head that look kind of like the Muppets. So what MTV did is it introduced a lot of these artists, but they didn't do them any justice when it came to visually portraying just how good musically that these artists actually were. Especially when it comes to what we now know as yacht rock and how important the Doobie Brothers were with introducing the Doobie Bounce into music, a term that's synonymous when defining most music that's considered yacht rock.
Just put me out to sea, Valencia. Love's forgotten all that I meant to ya. One day they'll be dancing in the moonlight. There'll be one love every midnight. What comes around goes around, Valencia. One day they'll be dancing in the moonlight. There'll be one love every midnight. What comes around goes around, Valencia.
So now, are the same personnel that recorded on Valencia, are they on the entire album?
They are. And we felt there was a weird urgency to get down to Nashville and make this album, even though it was sort of like a dream. There came a point where it was like, we got to get down there to work with these guys because, well, partially because everyone's getting up in age. And also I just wanted that authenticity of the same people who have been through that time. So yeah, Fred really helped put together a band. Michael had seen Tom Bukovac on YouTube, the guitar player, and recommended him. And everyone knows everyone in Nashville and they all work together really well. I was so surprised. Like I've multi-tracked a lot of my records over the years. So this was amazing just to have 2 days in the studio, all the same guys, and just, they were so lovely and they really enjoyed kind of going back to this era.
They knocked it out of the park. You can tell the difference when something's multi-track versus when things are all together as a unit. And so I'm going to read some of the personnel for people that don't know what I'm talking about. You have Shannon Forrest on drums, who played and toured with Toto. Pat Coyle on keys, who in himself is an artist, but has also played with Mike McDonald. Jim Hope. Does he currently play with the Beach Boys, or is he just a touring member with them? Do you know?
I think it's one of his many credits. He's got about 100 credits. 1,000.
Yeah.
He also played with NRBQ. Like, he's just legendary in the scope and range of people he's played with.
Is it Tom Bukovac?
Bukovac.
Tom Bukovac, guitar player who's played with Keith Urban and Taylor Swift. Pat Buchanan, who we've talked about, who's played with Cameo on their Word Up album, which was awesome, and Hall & Oates. And then you also got Larry Paxton on bass, who's part of Opry. So this album features a who's who of personnel, and it's just phenomenal, and you can hear it in the musicianship. So this leads me to my next question. What's your plans for taking it on the road?
So I'm really excited. We're going to play in Europe. I've never played my own show in Europe. I've done things with other bands, so it's pretty big for me. Sort of have a launch with Leger Recordings. They have a night that I'm going to be part of in June, and then I'm going to play in London, England on my birthday, June 8th at the Pheasantry, and then I'm playing in New York on June 16th. So my goal is to kind of build it over in Europe where I haven't been. I just love it over there. And obviously would like to come down to the States too, but I really haven't been able to go over there. So I consider this a beginning, really, which I think is also encouraging for people who are, in their 40s and want to follow their dreams. It's really never too late. There's my motivational plug for the day.
Yeah, and I think we're really excited about the partnerships that we have with Leger Recordings, with Highwire Records, with P-Vine in Japan, and just the idea, just to see how much the folks at P-Vine really love this music and how everybody has had similar responses to the album. It's been incredible that individuals might have fallen in love with different songs, but none of the partners that Emm's got for this record have ever said anything like, well, I don't really like that one song. It's like instead it's, I love that one song more. They love everything. And so everybody's been really super supportive.
I also have to jump in and say, like, your Facebook group and the Yacht Rock Toronto Facebook group have been great, like, resources for me, because I'm going to cover a song I found out about as a result of one of your groups. I can't remember which one, but, a band called Off Course from Japan. We're going to add that to the album for the CD version for Japan. There's nowhere else to go to find out about new, old yacht rock. So I feel so grateful to have discovered your group and Josh's group too.
When your album comes out, I think it's going to really touch home for a lot of different people. So when is your single Burn the Boats officially released?
Friday, January 13th.
What could go wrong?
And are you going to have an accompanying music video to follow your release?
Yes. My brother Frank, as I mentioned, he's a director. He's putting it together right now. There's going to be some boats, but it's great. Like, he's worked with a lot of different people over the years. Def Leppard. He did a Count Basie, video, Mariah Carey and Jimmy Jim. So it's cool to, like, work with family on this. My family actually has been very inspiring with this whole record because of my other brother. That's when I found out about Leger Recordings. I didn't even know anything about them. So, yeah.
And where can people find your music presently?
It's everywhere on every streaming platform. If you want a hard copy of something, you can go to my site, emmgryner.com.
Emm and Michael, I just want to thank you both for being guests on this episode of the Starboard.
It's been great to meet you, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you too. Absolutely. You've been listening to the Starboard with your Dockmaster Michael Atilano and special guests Emm Gryner and Michael Holmes. To find out more about the Starboard podcast, look me up on Facebook. That's Dockmaster Mike on Facebook. And there you can find links to our guest and to our past podcast episodes.